game of baseball is without question our national pastime and has held its position ever since the turn of the century. Baseball has produced a long, glorious list of immortal players who've come to be looked upon as larger-than-life figures, heroes who serve as role models for kids of all ages and allow adults the chance to relive their own memorable days on the diamond. Some of the most famous and popular players to ever play the game are featured in this program, and we look back at the men who provided us with thrilling moments and record-breaking performances. Sit back and get set to cheer as we present Superstars of Sports, Baseball. Babe Ruth certainly belongs at the top of any list of ball players assembled for any purpose. The Babe was the star attraction in the game throughout his career with the New York Yankees between 1920 and 1934. Ruth's phenomenal home run power propelled the Yankees to 6 American League pennants and 4 World Series wins. Ruth's accomplishments at the plate were nothing less than awesome. He led the American League in home runs 12 times. He led the league in RBIs 6 times. He broke the league record for home runs in a season 7 times. In 1927, the Babe smashed an incredible total of 60 home runs, a record that stood until 1961. While Ruth's power was his trademark, he was also an accomplished hitter who fashioned a career average of .342. When Ruth ended his baseball career, he stood high above all the rest with a career total of 714 home runs, a figure that was not approached for 40 years. This ball player was transformed into a bona fide American institution. He alone carried the game through the scandal of the 1919 Black Sox and into the roaring 20s with a majestic swing and a larger-than-life image. Babe Ruth was truly one of a kind. He was among the very first group of players to be inducted into the Baseball Hall of Fame in 1939. Lou Gehrig was a great baseball player who seemed to only receive just recognition for his talents after his career ended. Gehrig was a lethal batter who could hit for high average as well as power. Playing with the Yankees and alongside Babe Ruth made it difficult for Lou to truly shine in the spotlight. Had he been with any other ball club, he would have been the team's foundation. Gehrig broke into the New York Yankees lineup in 1925 and began a streak of games played that would span 15 seasons and over 2,000 games. While Ruth owned the home run title nearly every year, Lou Gehrig managed to earn it 3 times and usually finished second only to Babe. Known as the Iron Man of baseball, Gehrig posted a .340 career average and hit 493 homers. He was voted the American League's most valuable player 2 times, and in 1934, he earned a Triple Crown. A record that Gehrig holds to this day is his career total of 23 Grand Slams. Upon Ruth's retirement, Gehrig led New York to World Series wins in 1936, 37, and 1938. Unlike the flamboyant style of a Babe Ruth, Lou Gehrig was a reserved, quiet player who chose to allow his performance on the field to speak for him. In 1939, the streak of games played was halted at 2,130 when Gehrig was forced to take himself out of the lineup. The disease that bears his name would take his life 2 years later. He, too, was among the very first players to be inducted into baseball's Hall of Fame in Cooperstown, New York. Joe DiMaggio followed in the path of both Ruth and Gehrig as a valuable member of the New York Yankees. The Yankee Clipper teamed up with Lou Gehrig during his rookie season of 1936 and brought New York a World Series victory. DiMaggio was an accomplished all-around player. He could hit, field, throw, and was an excellent base runner. Joe led the American League in home runs 2 times and won batting crowns in 1939 and 1940. Playing with the Yankees for 13 seasons, DiMaggio led his team to 10 American League pennants and 9 World Series victories. With a career average of .325, Joltin' Joe DiMaggio was named to the annual All-Star team 13 times. He was voted the most valuable player on 3 occasions and was perhaps the most popular player of his time. Of all his accomplishments in baseball, Joe DiMaggio's greatest by far took place during the 1941 season. During that year, Joe began a hitting streak in May that eventually extended all the way into the month of July and reached the amazing total of 56 games. That feat ranks as one of the most revered records in sports history and may never be broken. Joe D. entered the Hall of Fame in 1955. Ted Williams is without a doubt one of baseball's greatest hitters, and a look at the man's achievements in his career with the Boston Red Sox will certainly back up that statement. The splendid Splinter broke into the major leagues back in 1939 with a .327 batting average and a league-leading 145 RBIs. It was only a hint of things to come. Williams was a student of hitting who kept a book on every pitcher in the game and possessed the keenest eyes in baseball. An annual selection to the All-Star team, Williams provided a truly memorable moment when his home run earned a victory for the American League in 1941. Ted played with Boston for 19 seasons, and despite losing nearly 5 years to military service, he rung up some legendary statistics. He hit .344, 6th on the all-time list. He earned 7 American League batting titles, 4 home run titles, 4 RBI titles, and was voted the league's most valuable player in 1946 and 1949. Ted's career average and total of 521 home runs certainly illustrate his talent. Yet his most lasting mark has to be his 1941 season, when he batted .406 to become the last 400 hitter in baseball history. Voted by the Sporting News as the player of the 50s, Williams won his final batting title in 1958 at age 39. Ted Williams homered in his last at-bat and went into the Hall of Fame in 1966. Stan the Man Musial is another of baseball's lethal hitters who starred in the 40s, 50s, and into the decade of the 60s. Playing for the St. Louis Cardinals, Musial led the Cardinals to 4 pennants and 3 World Series victories during the 40s. Musial's peekaboo batting stance enabled him to earn 7 National League batting titles. Stan was voted as the most valuable player 3 times and finished second in the voting 4 times. Musial once hit 5 home runs in a doubleheader. He also earned a batting title late in his career with a .351 average in 1957 at age 36. In all, Stan Musial collected 3,630 hits to finish second behind the immortal Ty Cobb. Batted .331 over his 22-year career, hit 475 home runs, and entered baseball's illustrious Hall of Fame in 1969. Bob Feller entered Major League Baseball at the tender age of 17 in 1936, but demonstrated that he could fire a baseball with the best of all time. In his debut performance with the Cleveland Indians, Feller's wicked fastball resulted in 15 strikeouts. It was quite a performance for the youngster, but control problems would plague him early on. The 1938 season produced some more impressive results as Bob struck out 18 batters in a game and also led the league with 240 strikeouts. The list of milestones in the career of Rapid Robert Feller reads like that of a Hall of Famer, and with good reason. He pitched for 18 years and threw 3 no-hitters, 12 one-hitters, won 20 or more games in a season 6 times, led the American League in strikeouts 7 times, and finished his career in 3rd place on the all-time strikeout list. Feller's single best season came about in 1940 when he posted a record of 27-11 with 260 strikeouts and an earned run average of .262. This farm boy from Van Meter, Iowa, completed his career with a total of 266 victories. Bob Feller enjoyed the ultimate award in the game when he joined the select company of men like Ruth, Gehrig, and DiMaggio with his induction into baseball's Hall of Fame in 1962. Jackie Robinson is considered by many to be one of America's social pioneers due to his struggle as the very first black player in Major League Baseball. Robinson succeeded in breaking the color barrier in America's national pastime in 1947 after being signed to a contract by Dodger general manager Branch Rickey. While changing the game by his mere presence, Jackie Robinson was also a major force in the lineup of the Brooklyn Dodgers. He was a fine hitter, a dangerous base runner, and a capable second baseman. Despite not getting his shot at the major leagues until he was 28 years old, Jackie Robinson made the most of his opportunity. He was an aggressive, exciting player. Robinson and the Dodgers won 6 National League pennants, but were denied World Series victories by the Yankees 5 times. The Dodgers won their long-awaited series in 1955. Jackie won the league's MVP award in 1947 and 1949 and carried a career average of .311. He also led the league in steals 2 times and was simply a great all-around player. Jackie Robinson not only helped open the door for fellow minorities, but he also distinguished himself as one of the game's finest players. Jackie was also voted into the Hall of Fame in 1962. Lefty Warren Spahn made a living at getting batters out through 3 decades of baseball. Spahn broke into baseball back in 1946 with the old Boston Braves and concluded his prolific career in 1965 with the San Francisco Giants. In between those 2 mileposts, Spahn pitched his way into the record books. He won 20 games 13 times and led the league in strikeouts 4 times. He posted the lowest ERA in the game on 2 occasions and threw 63 shutouts, more than any left-hander in history. Playing for the Braves, Spahn appeared in 3 World Series. In 1957, he was the Cy Young winner and led his team to a World Series win over the New York Yankees. Warren threw his first no-hitter at age 39 and proceeded to follow that up with his second no-hitter as a 40-year-old. Spahn's 363 career wins place him in 5th position on the all-time win list, and he is considered by most baseball experts to be the greatest left-hander ever. During his career, Spahn appeared in 750 ball games and completed his career with a modest ERA of .308. Warren was voted into the Hall of Fame in 1973. Catcher Yogi Berra may be thought of as a player noted more for his famous one-liners than his play between the lines. But let there be no misunderstanding, Yogi was a player. As the Yankee catcher from 1946 through the 1963 season, Berra proved to be a solid defensive player, a steady backstop for his pitching staff, and a clutch hitter. Berra belted 358 career home runs, more than any catcher before, and carried a solid .285 batting average. The Yankees won 10 World Series during Yogi's career, as he himself earned 3 American League MVP awards. Berra also set World Series records for games played and total hits. He also caught Don Larson's perfect game in 1956. Yogi Berra is a member of the Baseball Hall of Fame. Whitey Ford was one of the Yankees' many weapons while they dominated baseball in the 50s and 60s. The left-handed Ford won 236 games in his career and holds the second highest winning percentage of all time. Whitey led the league in victories 3 times and in ERA and shutouts 2 times. His best season came about in 1961 when he went 25-4. Ford also set a World Series record by throwing 32 innings of shutout ball between 1960 and 1961. Whitey became a Hall of Famer in 1974. Duke Snider played for the Dodgers from 1947 to 1962 and was among the premier power hitters of his era and helped the Dodgers to capture 6 National League pennants. Snider enjoyed fabulous seasons during a period from 1954 to 1957. The Duke hit 40 or more home runs each year. He also became the first player ever to hit 4 home runs in 2 World Series. He did it in 1952 and again in 1956. His home run power lifted the Dodgers to a win over the Yankees in the 55 series. He also earned another series win with the Dodgers in 1959. Snider's World Series marks of 11 home runs and 26 RBIs is the best of any National League player before or since. During 18 Major League seasons, Duke Snider hit a total of 407 home runs and put together a batting average of .295. The Duke of Flatbush was honored with induction to the Hall of Fame in 1980. Mickey Mantle also played the outfield in New York during the 50s. Mantle wore the vaunted Yankee pinstripes and carried on the prolific tradition of past Yankee greats. Mantle possessed raw power and is considered to be the most powerful switch hitter in baseball history. Despite being plagued by a variety of injuries, Mickey Mantle had an outstanding career as a Yankee, with 12 World Series appearances and 8 series victories. Mantle led the league in home runs 4 times. He slugged 50 in a season 2 times. He was voted as the American League's MVP on 3 occasions and earned a Triple Crown in 1956. Mantle batted .300 or better in 10 seasons and certainly demonstrated both power and a precise swing, which accounted for a lifetime total of 536 home runs. Mickey set a World Series record with a total of 18 home runs before concluding his playing days in 1968. The Mick's most memorable season was in 1956 when he hit 52 home runs, knocked in 130 runs, and hit .353, all league highs. Mickey Mantle, Hall of Fame member since 1974. Willie Mays was known around the baseball world as the Say Hey Kid and performed with dazzling style in center field for the Giants of New York and San Francisco from 1951 to 1972. Mays was also a terror at the plate and among the finest base stealers in the game. With his patented basket catches, Willie earned a string of 11 consecutive Gold Glove awards. He led the National League in steals 4 times and became the first player ever to hit 300 home runs and steal 300 bases in a career. Mays led the Giants to a World Series win in 1954 and was voted the league's MVP. Mays hit 310 times in his 22 seasons of baseball and led the league in home runs 4 times and once hit 4 homers in a game in 1961. Mays earned his second MVP award in 1965 after hitting 52 home runs and collecting the 500th home run of his career. In all, Willie Mays hit 660 home runs in his career, batted .302, and would have to be considered one of the greatest all-around players the game has ever produced. The Say Hey Kid topped off his marvelous run in baseball with a final stop at the entrance to the Baseball Hall of Fame in 1979. Roberto Clemente played for the Pittsburgh Pirates from 1955 through the 1972 season and proved to be yet another all-around great player. A native of Puerto Rico, Roberto possessed the complete package. He could hit for power, average. He was a good outfielder who displayed a tremendous arm when tested by base runners. His play in the field earned Clemente 12 Gold Glove awards, while his hot bat produced a career average of .317, as well as 4 National League batting crowns. In 1966, he was voted as the league's MVP. He hit .362 in the Pirates' 1960 World Series win over New York, and he hit .414 as the Pirates came from behind to defeat the Baltimore Orioles in the World Series of 1971. Clemente collected 3,000 base hits and 240 home runs, while carrying a .300 average in 13 seasons. After his tragic death in a plane crash in 1972, Roberto Clemente became the first Hispanic player ever to enter the Baseball Hall of Fame. Hank Aaron, the all-time home run leader in baseball history, played the outfield for the Braves in Milwaukee and Atlanta, as well as the Milwaukee Brewers of the American League. For much of his career, Aaron played in relative obscurity and put up solid numbers, but was not a spectacular player. Aaron led the league in home runs 4 times during his 23 seasons, and also led the league in RBIs 4 times. A 2-time batting champ, Aaron led Milwaukee to a World Series victory over the Yankees in 1957. Aaron was voted the most valuable player that year. The secret to Hank's home run record was his amazing consistency, as he hit 30 or more home runs in a season 15 times, while belting 40 or more 8 times. To go along with all that power, Aaron also put together a career average of .305. In 1974, Hank Aaron surpassed the all-time home run record of Babe Ruth and took his place in the annals of baseball history as the new home run king. He completed his career with 755 home runs. Hammerin' Hank Aaron joined the company of baseball's best in 1982 when he, too, entered the Hall of Fame. Harmon Killebrew played much of his career with the Washington Senators and the Minnesota Twins between 1954 and 1974. During his days in Major League Baseball, Killebrew built a reputation for being one of the most dangerous long ball hitters of all time. Harmon led the American League in home runs 6 times. He hit 40 or more round trippers in a season 8 times and ranks 3rd on the home run percentage list. His career total of 573 ranked 2nd in the American League, only behind Ruth himself. The Killer entered the Hall of Fame in 1984. Sandy Koufax did not enjoy a long career in baseball, but he did shine very brightly in the early 60s with the Los Angeles Dodgers. Koufax was a wild pitcher during his first 6 seasons with the Dodgers and only possessed a record of 36-40 at one point. Once the hard-throwing left-hander learned how to control his fastball, he became the most dominant pitcher in the game. Between 1962 and 1966, Koufax led the league in earned run average 5 times. He pitched 4 no-hitters. Among them was a perfect game. He received 3 Cy Young Awards. He earned a Most Valuable Player Award and set a season record with 382 strikeouts in 1965. He led the Dodgers to World Series victories in 1963 and 1965, and in 1966 he went 27-9 as Los Angeles won the pennant. Between 1961 and 1966, Sandy Koufax posted an overall record of 129-47. Following a World Series loss to Baltimore, Sandy Koufax announced his retirement due to an injured pitching arm. In 1972, Koufax became the youngest player ever to enter the Hall of Fame at the age of 36. Don Drysdale was a pitching partner of Sandy Koufax's during the 50s and 60s. Drysdale was a hard-throwing right-hander who stood 6 feet 5 inches tall and relied on power pitching to get opposing batters out. In 14 seasons with the Dodgers, Drysdale became the club's all-time leader in wins and strikeouts, while posting a record of 206 victories with 166 losses. Big D also possessed a knack for hitting batters, 154 in all, and was certainly feared by most batters in the National League. Drysdale was a member of the Dodgers' 1959 World Champions, and in 1962, he enjoyed his best season with 25 victories and a Cy Young Award. Don led the league in strikeouts 3 times and also helped Los Angeles to win World Series in 1963 and again in 1965. During the 68 season, Big D set a record by pitching 58 2/3 innings of shutout ball. After retiring in 1969, Don Drysdale entered the Hall of Fame in 1984. Bob Gibson of the St. Louis Cardinals was another hard-throwing right-handed pitcher who pitched in the National League from 1959 to 1975. Gibson threw hard fastballs and curves and was known to knock down and even hit his share of batters. He was a fiery competitor on the mound and was at his best in the World Series. Gibson was a 20-game winner 5 times and also earned 2 Cy Young Awards. And in 1968, he compiled the lowest ERA of all time, 1.12. In 1971, Gibson threw a no-hitter and concluded his career as the winningest pitcher in Cardinal history. In the 1964 World Series, Gibson beat the Yankees twice en route to a St. Louis win. Then, in 1967, he beat the Red Sox 3 times in another Cardinal World Series victory. Bob Gibson, one of the greatest pitchers ever, was inducted into the Baseball Hall of Fame in 1981. Ernie Banks played shortstop and first base for the Chicago Cubs for 18 seasons and was known as Mr. Cub. Banks put together a career average of .274, hit 512 home runs, was voted the MVP 2 times, led the league in home runs 2 times, and was a perennial all-star selection. His 47 home runs in 1958 were the most by any shortstop in history. Ernie Banks did not play in the World Series, but he did get to enter the Hall of Fame in 1977. Lou Brock is no longer the base-stealing king of baseball, but he is still a truly great player. After beginning his career with the Cubs in 1961, Lou was traded to the Cardinals during the '64 season and helped St. Louis win the pennant and the World Series. Brock collected over 3,000 base hits. He batted .293, set a season record with 118 steals, and became the game's all-time leader in base stealing with a total of 938, a record that stood until the 1991 season. Frank Robinson entered the majors with the Cincinnati Reds in 1956 and did so with a bang as he tied a rookie record with 38 home runs. Robinson played with the Reds for 11 seasons and established himself as one of the best players in baseball, a player who could hit for average and put one out on a frequent basis. In 1961, he was voted the National League's most valuable player after batting .323 with 37 home runs. Robinson was traded to the Baltimore Orioles in 1966 and won that league's Triple Crown and became the first player ever to earn MVP awards in both leagues. Robinson won a World Series with Baltimore in 1970 and went on to play for the Dodgers, Angels, and Indians. His total of 586 home runs ranks 4th on the all-time list. He also produced 2,943 base hits and finished with a career average of .294. These numbers added up to a trip to Cooperstown for Frank in 1982. Brooks Robinson played third base for the Orioles and did it better than any man in history. Brooks' defensive skills were nothing less than extraordinary as he earned 16 straight Gold Glove awards while patrolling the hot corner in Baltimore. He established all-time records for assists, putouts, double plays, and fielding average. Brooks played with Baltimore for 23 years and put together a career batting average of .267. The highlight of his career was the 1970 World Series, as his defensive play and his .429 batting average lifted the Orioles to a World Series win over the Cincinnati Reds. He was voted the most valuable player in that series. Perhaps the greatest third baseman of all time, Brooks Robinson of the Baltimore Orioles also entered the Hall of Fame in 1983. Pete Rose is without argument one of baseball's all-time great players whose performance on the field earned the love and admiration of fans and foe throughout his long association with the game. Despite his status as far as the Hall of Fame is concerned, there can be no denying his accomplishments during a career that lasted 24 years and contained a host of rewards. He finished as the all-time leader in games played, at-bats, hits, and earned Rookie of the Year, Most Valuable Player, and was named to the All-Star team at 5 positions. He was perhaps the best example of what hard work and desire, as well as some raw ability, can bring about. Playing with the Reds, Pete was part of the Big Red Machine, which won 4 pennants and 2 World Series in the 70s. He also won a World Series with the Philadelphia Phillies in 1983. Pete Rose was purely and simply the hardest working player the game of baseball has ever seen. Charlie Hustle may be banned from baseball, but fans who witnessed his playing career will never forget his all-out, never-say-die attitude and his will to win.
Bases loaded. Here's the 2-0 to Frank Robinson. There it goes.